Hello, and welcome everyone to Beekeeper's first webinar for 2021, Reality Check, Where Are We in the Recovery? My name is Andrada Parashiv, and I'm the head of hospitality with Beekeeper, formerly leading strategy and communication for Fairmont Raffles Hotel and a core luxury division. For those of you that may not know Beekeeper, we are an operational communication platform that allows hospitality leaders to instantly reach their employees across locations, shifts, departments, languages. In today's webinar, almost 1 year after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, is meant to reflect upon the extraordinary year that 2020 was and discuss what we expect in 2021. Almost exactly 1 year ago, the entire world came to a standstill. With stay-at-home orders and closed borders, the hospitality industry suddenly found itself in uncharted territory. Hospitality was one of the most impacted industries by the pandemic, with hotels, restaurants, casinos, and attractions closing their doors for the first time in history, and millions of employees being furloughed. This webinar aims to explore where hospitality leaders find themselves in the recovery process today, recap some of the biggest lessons of 2020, and identify areas of focus for 2021 as we continue down the road to recovery. And today, I'm excited to be joined here by three amazing hospitality experts representing different areas of hospitality. And it may not be March 8th anymore, but we have a 3 women strong panel, and I'm very glad about that. Amy, Melissa, and Sarah, we at Beekeeper are very grateful that you are able to join us today. And I would like to ask you to begin by introducing yourselves and your organization. Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Weber and I work at Mod Pizza. So Mod is a people place that just happens to make pizza and salads. We have almost 500 locations throughout 28 states and one up in Canada.
Thank you. Melissa?
Hi, I'm Melissa Milione. I'm Corporate Director of Events for Hyatt Hotels. Been with Hyatt a little more than 30 years and support all of our full service hotels in the Americas in all areas of catering and convention services.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Sorbel. I'm the HR manager for Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. I oversee talent acquisition, HRIS, compensation, and records management. Today is actually my 5-year anniversary, which I'm very, very excited for. It's really an exciting milestone. Morongo Casino Resort and Spa is owned by the Morongo Band of Mission Indians and is a tribal casino and resort in Cabazon, California, just outside Palm Springs.
Thank you, Sarah, and congratulations. And to many more. So thank you, everyone. Like I said, we're extremely glad to have you here today. And without further ado, let's get started and talk about 2020 at first, right? And looking back at 2020, probably some painful memories, but hopefully distant by now. I mean, the fact is that not everyone in hospitality has been affected the same way by the pandemic. And to set the stage, I thought it would be good to talk about the journeys that your specific organizations went through last year and highlight a couple of key challenges and lessons learned. So Sarah, I'll start with you. I know that you had some tough choices and decisions to make 1 year ago. Like you said, Morongo is a tribal casino, and you are the #1 revenue generating asset for the tribe and the largest employer. So tell us more about those decisions that you're faced with and challenges, in 2020.
Sure. So yeah, 1 year ago, we were in the midst of trying to navigate through the mountain of information that we were hearing from the CDC and local health officials, just trying to figure out what it all meant, right? And so being that we're a tribal casino, and every tribe was kind of faced with this same scenario is, do we shut down with the state? Once we got word that the state of California was shutting down, do we shut down with the state or do we stay open because we're actually a sovereign nation? So being that basically that means that we don't operate within the laws of the state of California, though we are located here. So one thing I've learned in my 5 years with Morongo is, and just working for a Native American tribe, is that people always come first, which is a really cool legacy in the industry, you know, across many different states. We all kind of have that mindset. So in order to protect our team members and our guests and our surrounding communities, we made the decision to close our doors for the first time in our operating history, as did every other tribe in the area. You know, we kind of all came together and said, we're either all going to do it or we're all not going to do it, you know, but we all have to kind of function as a unit in facing this challenge. So as you mentioned, the casino is the #1 revenue generating asset for the tribe. Not only does the revenue allow us, you know, to employ about 2,000 people, it also funds a lot of important and beneficial community programs. So environmental protection initiatives, child and family services, community outreach programs, education services, and even our own fire department that works with other local law enforcement and fire department in departments in times of crisis and need. So knowing that by closing our doors, it would affect not only the team members' ability to provide for their families, but we knew it would affect, you know, people that benefit from these amazing programs that are in place. So this was not an easy decision by any means. But once the decision was made to close our doors, you know, there were other decisions that then had to be made, right? That was one small piece of the puzzle. And I think across the board for many employers, you know, we all kind of went through this exercise of, can we keep our employees? Can we continue to pay our employees? What happens with their benefits? You know, how long will that maintain with our doors closed? On and on and on, all those types of questions, right? So not only did we have to find answers to those, but then how do you communicate those plans to your team? How do you reach 2,000 team members, you know, to let them know, A, we're shutting down and you're not going to be coming to work tomorrow, and we don't know when you'll be back, but B, here's all the actual information you need to know that's going to affect your day-to-day life. So that was really important to figure out. And so, you know, again, you know, closing down for the first time in our history, we didn't have processes in place for this, right? And so that was one of the big learning curves that you talked about is, okay, what do we do now? And so that was when we reached out to Beekeeper to say, this is a great platform that we can quickly communicate with all of our team members. But aside from that, you know, tireless hours went into partnering with the CDC and local health officials to craft an extremely detailed plan on, you know, once we can open again, what does that look like? We knew immediately the landscape had changed. You know, when we opened our doors again, we knew things would be different and things would look different. We were able to successfully open in May after being closed for 9 weeks, with some exceptions. You know, some departments we've decided to remain closed, but we have been open, you know, essentially for about 10 months, which is wonderful. And those departments that we couldn't safely reopen, you know, we did our best to absorb those team members into other departments that were opening back up to, again, provide, you know, the means or the ability for those team members to make a living and have benefits and all those things that are very, very important. And so, you know, when we did reopen, the public and our team responded very, very well to our safety protocols. Like I said, we had a very detailed plan put in place of, you know, dozens and dozens of steps we had to follow for various situations. How do I enter the building? How does security know that someone's been screened? You know, how do we ensure that day to day our team is remaining safe? So we had to, you know, figure out all of those things. You know, and part of that was using Beekeeper. It was informing team members about, here's the plan, here's how you enter the building, here's how you get screened, you know, by security in order to know that you're safe coming in. And so, you know, it also had a very positive impact on morale because it was everyone coming together, right? We still had a common goal, and we just had a new challenge. And I was really, really excited to see that not only our leadership team, but our team in general took these challenges in stride. And we pulled together and said, you know, we're going to do a great job with this because we want to stay open and we want to keep everybody safe. So I think, you know, Beekeeper not only gave us the ability to communicate those changes, but also we're able to reach team members in a way that we never have before. So not just talking about safety protocols, but, you know, talking about promotions. Hey, these 5 people were promoted this week, or this is someone celebrating an anniversary. And so it gave us the opportunity to really focus on positive things that are happening on property as well, which was, I think, a very interesting byproduct of all of this, right? It let us communicate with team members in a way we never had before. And I never would have thought that would have been such a positive thing coming out of such a negative pandemic, right? So yeah, I think those were kind of the main challenges we faced, and, you know, kind of how we handled them. And those were kind of the lessons learned, is that, you know, we were definitely not prepared for something like this, as I think, you know, many of us were not. None of us saw this coming in our lifetime, I'm sure. But yeah, that's a little bit about how Morongo handled things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah. It's very insightful, and I'm happy that you've been open for the past 10 months, and you know, you managed to do that. And I'm also happy that Beekeeper played a small role in that.
Yeah.
So was able to help you. Now, Amy, your challenge was a bit different, but I think in essence was pretty much the same, like everyone's, right? But you have 9,000 employees across 28 states, like you said before. And how did you pivot to ensure the business was continuing to run through the pandemic?
Yeah, great question. So I don't really think any of us really knew what we were in for when the pandemic started. I remember, I believe it was March 5th, our support center was told, bring your laptop home, we're working from home for 2 weeks. And a little over a year later, I am still at home. But 2020 was definitely challenging, especially since we operate in multiple states, and each state, you know, has had their own response to the pandemic. We have stores in Texas, and the response there with the state was much different than in Washington State. But as a people first business, our main priority was just taking care of our squad members. We've always had this philosophy that if we in the support center take care of our squad members, then they will take care of the customers, and that'll lead to a successful business. And that sentiment has never rung more true than during the pandemic. I would say in 2020, we really had to focus on our internal communications to our frontline employees, because everything was changing and so quickly. There was a lot of ambiguity out there and a lot of confusion. And of course, there are operational changes we needed our squad members to know about, such as, you know, mask mandates, what to do when a customer refuses to put on a mask, social distancing rules, how they should be cleaning the store. Most importantly, though, our squad needed to know what benefits and what supports were available to them. They needed to know that MOD was providing free meals for them and their family if they needed it during this tough time. That, you know, if the store was shut down because a coworker tested positive, MOD would compensate them for the hours that they were missing. There are all sorts of mental health resources we made available to our squad members. We had a couple team members stand up a 12-step program for those that were no longer able to attend those meetings in person. They could do it over Zoom. And of course, our employee crisis fund, which we've had since, 5 or 6 years now, that's given out, you know, over $1.5 million, over half of that just in the pandemic alone. We just wanted to make sure our squad members all knew those resources existed, because if they didn't know about it, what good was it to them? So we were able to use Beekeeper. Our favorite part of Beekeeper is the more section, and just house all these important resources. And we also use Beekeeper to share the good things that were happening, because, you know, despite the fact we were in a pandemic, our squad members were doing amazing work in the field. They provided over 2,000 meals to those struggling with food insecurity, and they donated meals to frontline healthcare workers, doctors, nurses, firefighters, policemen. And sharing these stories just really helped with morale in the company. It was just super important during the pandemic that we kept our purpose of creating a world that works for and includes everyone at the forefront in all that we do. And we also use Beekeeper to solicit ideas from our field. How can we improve operations? How can we make sure that everyone is safer? What can we better do to support you? And, despite how challenging 2020 was, it was definitely challenging. A lot of, pivoting, a lot of implementing change on the fly. Our sales were only down about 5%, and we're very proud of that.
Wow, thank you very much. Only by 5%, that's really amazing. So congrats to you and your team. Now, Melissa, let's go to you. You are responsible for events at one of the largest brands in the world. Unfortunately, events have been hardest hit in the industry. But we also know that there are opportunities that come with every crisis. So tell us about some of the learnings or innovation that you have had to come up with in this new normal.
You are so correct. The meetings, conventions, large events, large indoor concerts and sporting events really will be the last activities that will return to our pre-pandemic levels. And within Hyatt, our innovation efforts have really centered around two main objectives. First and foremost, keeping our guests and our colleagues safe at any in-person events, and supporting our clients in planning hybrid events where some people are in person, but a broader audience is participating virtually. Hyatt's purpose is to care for people so they can be their best. And I feel confident that the measures we have put in place from a hygiene point of view and safety point of view really are focused on keeping our guests and colleagues safe. We gathered a team of experts together to really look at the meeting experience from check-in all the way through departure. The same thing with all of our events. Weddings have actually remained fairly strong throughout the pandemic. So looking at every opportunity where we could ensure that we were keeping our guests and colleagues safe. And Beekeeper really played an important part in that because it gave us the right platform to collaborate on different procedures that we wanted to put into place and then share those best practices out to the field to all of our hotels globally. And we must have done okay with it because we were recently recognized by Forbes as being the hotel brand that had the safest procedures in place. So I was really proud of that. On the hybrid side, we're still learning and growing in that space. We've delivered a great solution for small meetings, and we're launching our offering for larger meetings later this month. As states begin relaxing their gathering restrictions, we're looking forward to welcoming more people back to face-to-face events.
Yes, no, thank you. I think, first of all, to me, it was surprising that weddings were still strong. Everybody I heard, they were postponing, but maybe because I live in Canada. There are tighter restrictions here, but that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think people move forward with life celebrations. For sure, they've looked different. In some of our states like Texas and Arizona and Florida, they've been fairly normal, but in some states that there's been no dancing or they've had to have completely seated events. We've seen a lot more micro weddings and elopements in the last year.
Okay, I see. Yeah, they had to be creative too.
For sure.
It's okay. Now let's move to 2021. This is the year that everyone has looked forward to since last March, probably. Now, vaccination is in progress in most parts of the world. At the same time, new variants are rampant. But overall, I would say there's a general feeling of optimism. Where are you in the recovery process right now? And where do you think you will be at the end of 2021? And Melissa, let's start with you. I mean, what are you seeing in the market when it comes to events, and what do you anticipate for this year?
Yeah, we're starting to see signs of recovery. I mentioned that weddings and similar events have remained fairly strong, although they've looked different over the last year. But as states start to open, we are starting to see more mid-size meetings happening, some small conventions, We're seeing a lot of youth sporting events, dance clinics and volleyball tournaments and things like that that do happen indoors that are happening in hotel spaces. And as restrictions lift, we are starting to see more and more meetings business, which is really exciting. Recently, there was a trade show in Charlotte, North Carolina for a professional conference planning organization, which was very well attended. And the people who went there said they really felt safe and they loved that opportunity to see each other face to face. You know, often when you go to a trade show, you do, I call it the flyby. You don't want to stop at booths and talk to people. You just kind of walk past and glance and see what's happening. And they said that absolutely wasn't the case. People would stop by the booth and stay there 15, 20 minutes talking. I think that's how much people crave being together again. Our planners tell us that they think they'll be comfortable returning to normal meeting activity in Q3, with probably the larger meetings being later in 22 or maybe even 2023 before larger conventions return. Simply from the logistics point of view, they often need a lot farther out planning before they can happen than smaller meetings. But I hope by the end of the year, it'll all feel a lot more normal.
Yes, and we had a team member that just participated in a small event, maybe 50 people in Orlando, but still, it's some return to normalcy. So that was exciting for us. Now, Amy, how has 2021 been so far for you compared to last year? And how do you expect to end this year?
Yeah, so far it's been better. There's definitely optimism in the company. We're opening our 500th location this year, and we are all so excited. It's always great to have something big like that to celebrate. I mean, when COVID first hit, we knew it would be a lot of work getting to the other side, but we knew we would come out of it stronger than before. I mean, the challenges of 2020 really forced us to focus on a few areas. Obviously, internal communication, digital ordering, third-party delivery services, and just pivoting on the fly. And we know that the learnings we took and that focus on those key areas is going to carry to the end of the year and beyond. It was a year of unknowns, stores closing for deep cleanings. We stood up a whole team to just do essentially contact tracing to make sure our squad members were safe. And how that we have squad members that are getting vaccinated and they're posting pictures and videos of them getting their shots on Beekeeper. We're all feeling really hopeful. But at the end of the day, we do know that we just don't know when business is going to return to the pre-COVID normal. We hope it's soon, but as safety is our number one concern, we're always going to strictly follow the guidance of the CDC. Even now as states have been opening indoor dining to 100% capacity, that doesn't mean our dining rooms no matter what the state says, we're going to make sure that when dining rooms do open, that there's adequate social distancing that align with those CDC guidelines. We like to say, Maud, we think we're a trailblazer in the restaurant industry, but when it comes to returning to, a normal, we're going to be a thoughtful follower and just make sure that it's safe before we open everything up.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And I'll go to, my family is definitely missing. In Toronto, we haven't had indoor dining since, I don't know, I cannot remember. Maybe in the summer we had a little bit outdoor dining.
Mm-hmm.
So really excited, to celebrate birthdays in places like that. So yeah, I think everybody is craving for that as well. Now, Sarah, where is your organization in the recovery process and how do you expect to progress by December?
Yeah, so we're pretty deep into the recovery process at this point since we have been open and operational for 10 months. When we reopened the doors in May, it was a really unique experience for us because during the shutdown, we had the unique opportunity. Prior to the shutdown, we had been working for about a year and 16, 17 months on an expansion and renovation project. And so when COVID hit, and that slowed down, we realized that was actually an opportunity that we can get quite a bit of things done during this time where guests are not in the building for the first time. So we were able to complete our expansion and renovation project. We now offer 2 casinos, 4,000 slot machines, 100 table games, including a poker room, 7 restaurants, and we fully renovated the hotel tower. So for us coming back, it was not only, okay, we have to recover, but now we have this whole other expanded part of the business that we have to, make sure is economically, sustainable. And how do you do that in a pandemic, right? But like I said, the guests responded very, very well to us opening, and they supported our safety protocols that we had in place. And I think to Melissa's point, it does feel like events are starting to come back slowly. That was one piece of our business that, we had not allowed to come back yet. But we do hope it's one aspect of the business we can resume in 2021. We used to do a lot of conferences here, not only conferences, but weddings and holiday parties and high school reunions, just lots of fun times on property. So we're actually putting plans in place right now to open 2 of the departments that had remained closed. We'll be opening them in the next few weeks, which is our pool. The pool has always been open to hotel guests, but actually opening it to the public every summer is something guests always look forward to. So we're making plans for that. And our spa. Our spa has actually remained closed this whole time because we didn't feel it was safe enough to have team members, performing treatments on guests in a safe way. So we're hoping to get those off the ground in the next, 2 to 4 weeks. But I think, the biggest piece for us is continuing to get up-to-date information so we know how to pivot and adapt accordingly, right? We just have to remain very agile. And so we'll continue to do what is safe. We won't compromise safety in order to open those remaining parts of the organization. Of course, we want to open those parts, but if it's not safe and doesn't make sense, we won't do it. And luckily, we're in a much better place now to be able to know what decisions have to be made in order to adapt quickly. I feel like we had such a learning curve last year, but now I feel like we're all kind of pros. We just in the fact that we know something crazy could come from left field and we just have to be ready for it. I think that's already a step in the right direction. But overall, business has been really, really good for us ever since we opened back up. Guests want and need a place to go to get away. We help provide that. Me speaking personally, I truly believe that time away from the stressors of everyday life is really important for our mental health. Like Amy was saying, they had great programs put in place for mental health. And I think that's one really important thing for our guests and our community. And so I'm really glad that we're able to provide that for them in a safe way.
And I would love to come visit for my mental health. I would like to come see your property.
Yeah, the property is absolutely beautiful now after the expansion and renovation project. We're really, really proud of it.
Yeah, we'll get there one day. I'll be there. But I mean, what I hear from all of you is strong optimism for what's coming. And I think this is great news. Now, of course, it's not going to be easy, right? And from a people perspective, the past year has been very difficult already. You had the furloughs, then coming back to new roles, new procedures, if they are lucky to come back, and then the whole uncertainty looming all around us. Now, kudos to your organizations for being able to manage these massive changes and make it work in the new normal. Now, what do we expect to be your biggest challenges in 2021 when it comes to your people who are really at the heart of your business and the recovery? And how do you plan on tackling these challenges? And I've heard some bits and pieces. You're talking about some vaccination. You're talking about safety, maybe engagement, retraining some of the employees. So who wants to go first and talk about some of these challenges more in depth?
I'm happy to go first. As both Sarah and Amy mentioned, the impact on their staff, the impacting on our staffing at Hyatt was huge. Our corporate office reduced staff by 45% last June, and my team alone, which had 20 people, was reduced to only 3. Many of our hotels closed for part of last year, some for only a month and some for much longer, and we still have a few that haven't yet reopened. And I think one thing that's critical in re-onboarding the colleagues will be their mental and emotional well-being. Both Sarah and Amy touched on that already. I think we have to be sensitive to how difficult the past year has been for them personally. Many of them are returning to work without their former coworkers, and survivor's guilt or survivor's syndrome for sure is a real issue, and our colleagues are going to need support in working through it. And then on top of that, everybody's returning to work with different responsibilities. I would say one positive result that has come out of this from a staffing point of view is that we have torn down a lot of the silos that existed pre-pandemic, and we're using this opportunity to look at our positions in our hotels based on the need of the hotel, based on the talent that we have, and not so much on traditional title-based jobs. We are doing a number of things to help our colleagues as they return. There are a lot of initiatives that happen at the hotel level. From a corporate point of view, we have a partnership with Headspace, and that really helps us in focusing on their mental and emotional well-being. We talk a lot about ways to include mindfulness in our daily practices at work, and the importance of taking care of ourselves physically so that we feel good and are ready to do the job.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Oh, go for it.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah. Am I muted? It's telling me I'm muted. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Now I can, yes.
Weird. That was odd. It like automatically muted me. But no, so specifically being in HR, I think we want to continue to be a resource for the team that, you know, like Melissa said, they're going to need support at this time. You know, some team members lost family members. And so how can we specifically be a resource for them to help them through that time? You know, whether it's they need to take a leave of absence, you know, how do we do that? Our leave process looks completely different than it did a year ago, right? Because we understand that there are other things we have to take into account now rather than just the standard FMLA. There can be personal leaves, there could be actual COVID leave, you know, we have to put our people first, right? And support them in any way we can. But I think another thing, you know, we're really working on, and like Melissa said, teamwork. You know, we got back into the building and it was, what can I do to help? You know, we had people from one department helping out another, you know, people that are normally back of house being front of house, or someone front of house being back of house, you know, and just, there was a really big consensus that we're all in this together. And that continues to today, which I'm very, very proud of. And then I think, you know, the last piece for us is trying to keep the team members engaged, because it is stressful, right? Being out there on the floor with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of guests every day. So making sure that they feel appreciated, doing fun events as we can, you know, making sure that they're still safe, but providing that fun factor for the team member can go a really long way, I think.
Yeah. Amy?
Yeah, I'd say our biggest priority and in turn our biggest challenge of 2021 is the vaccine rollout and making sure that our squad members know that when they can take the vaccine and why they should. We aren't requiring that our squad members get the vaccine. We believe it's a personal choice and it's something that they should talk to their doctor about. However, we want to make sure that our squad members do have the right facts, that they're seeing information from experts from the CDC and not just seeing, you know, posts on their Uncle Facebook page that may or may not be true. Just a real focus on accurate information. And for us too, we're using Beekeeper not only to disseminate that accurate information, but to share stories of our squad members who have received the vaccine and why they decided to get the vaccine. They're telling their story of, I took the vaccine because it's going to protect my grandma that I would hope to visit sometime soon for the first time in a year. Or I'm getting the vaccine because it's going to protect my store. It's going to, prevent us from having to shut down and from squad members not being able to come into work. So it's really interesting to just see all the different reasons why our squad members are choosing to get vaccinated. And we even had a doctor do a live Q&A. Was it last week? The time's just kind of blending together. I believe it was last week, where our squad members were able to ask really tough questions that they just haven't been able to find answers for, just through Googling or from their network. And we're also providing compensation for our squad members that do get vaccinated, up to 4 hours of work, depending if they get the 2-shot vaccine, or it's 2 hours if they get the 1-shot Johnson & Johnson. I mean, we really believe that if we arm our squad with the facts, they'll make the right decision for themselves and for their families.
Thank you, Amy. So if I were to summarize what you all said, I think it's a balance between, or it's both, not even a balance. It has to be both, safety and engagement, and then thinking of all the new roles that were created, the new jobs they have to do, basically. But also highlighting, I think you're highlighting, right, that the crises bring people together too. So that's like a byproduct, a benefit in a way of what we've been through. It's that people came together and jumped in and did what was necessary. But this also takes a toll, right, in what they do. So we need to be mindful of that. No, thank you, very insightful. Okay, so the last question, which is not really a question, it's more your closing remarks or any takeaways that you would like to leave this audience with.
I can start. I guess my main takeaway is, yes, it's great to, provide your frontline workers all this important information, but it's just as important to listen to them, give them an opportunity to voice what their concerns are and what ideas they have to improve the situation on the ground. They're the ones that truly know what's going on. They know better than everyone. And we've just found a lot of success in our business by incorporating the ideas and addressing the concerns of our frontline workers.
Thank you.
I would say for me, the biggest takeaway is when you have the opportunity to travel again for the first time, or you have the opportunity to attend an event for the first time, rest assured that everybody in the hospitality industry wants to do everything they can to keep you safe. 10% of all the people in the United States work in the hospitality industry, and it's a very important industry for us in the Americas. And we want to have events return. We want to have people traveling again, and we want to help everybody feel confident that they can have a safe experience.
And I think for me, just this has been pretty eye-opening for me, speaking with Melissa and Amy and listening to their stories in their industries, because I think some of us can get so locked into what our industry is doing. So, I have a lot of insight into what other casinos are doing and what our casino is doing, but I hadn't really stopped to think, how was Hyatt affected? How were just standalone hotels affected? How were standalone restaurants affected? Because I'm so in my day-to-day of what's happening in Indian gaming. And so I think a big takeaway is, one, we all faced very, very similar challenges. And I think, like you were saying, the positive side is everyone came together. And I'm really happy to hear that happened regardless of industry, right? And that just shows that people are very resilient. And so I think the rest of 2021 is going to be really positive because of that.
True that. And Amy, Melissa, and Sarah, thank you very much for your participation today. This has been a great discussion. Now we're almost out of time, and I will take a couple of minutes before we end this webinar um, to mention how Beekeeper can support the industry without the recovery and beyond that. And you have already mentioned ways in which you're able to use Beekeeper in the past year to help navigate these unusual times. But what is Beekeeper really? It's a mobile-first communication platform, which is designed to be the single point of contact for your hospitality teams. In other words, it's meant to bring together different, the communication piece, tools, and empower your frontline employees with what they need to do their job. And the impact that comes from that is then translated into increased employee engagement and productivity, as well as better guest experience. And here I mentioned, just 4 specific ways to leverage Beekeeper, especially in this recovery phase that we are in. So number 1 is hoteliers can reach all employees instantly, whether active or furloughed, in their language of choice. And this is particularly important when we talk about critical information that needs to be out as soon as possible, like vaccination information. Amy, you're talking about that, giving people the facts versus them hearing them from someone's Facebook page. Number 2 is really being able to digitize any paper type of communication, whether it's a form or documents, and being able to access them on your phone. And I give you an example here. Someone requesting time off doesn't have to go to the HR office and be on property for that, can request it on their phone from anywhere, really. Now, as you prepare to ramp up your teams, you'll have to onboard and train new or even returning employees. But like you said, their jobs may be different now. So they'll have to go through different trainings, and Beekeeper can also facilitate these tasks and create more consistency in what they see and what they learn. And then the 4th point is a point that you all brought up, being super important, engaging, recognizing, and motivating teams. And this was hard even in regular times. Now it's even harder. And Beekeeper, because of the transparency or the opportunity to have a voice for everyone, provides this medium to connect all the employees and foster the company culture. And you can find more information on our website there, or you can email me with any questions. But that is it for now. Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. And thank you especially to our distinguished panelists. And please stay tuned for our next webinar in April. Thank you.